We alone in the universe? Well, this author, Avi Loeb, in his new book, Extraterrestrial, the first sign of intelligent life beyond Earth, attempts to answer that timeless question. I've often wondered this. I'm sure you probably have if you're watching this. Are we alone in the universe? What's the odds that we are it? And what are the odds that we're not it, that there's something out there? And if so, I mean, all these answers produce different responses. If we're alone in this world, wow, gee, how insanely depressing. And if we're not, if we aren't alone, that can also be a scary thought, because what's out there? It's like swimming in the ocean. You know, you're swimming on the shore. It's all cool. You can see the ground below. All of a sudden, whoa, I'm looking down into a dark abyss, right? And that can be the answer to this question. If we're not alone, what's out there? This author, he says, and I'll go to his little quote here on page 67. He's interviewed by someone, and the interviewer asks, do you believe there are alien civilizations out there? And Avi says, a quarter of all stars host a planet the size and surface temperature of the Earth. He says into the camera, it would be arrogant to think that we are alone. The author is the longest serving chair, department head of the Department of Astronomy at Harvard University. He's been there from 2011 to 2020. He is also a member of the Presidential Council of Advisors on Science and Technology, and is also involved in, or has been involved in writing papers, academic papers for SETI, which stands for the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. They're often debunked as being, you know, shooed off as being more kind of conspiratorial and not based in science. And that's another theme in this book, is that Oumuamua is a premise for him to talk about more than just us being alone, but also where we are as a civilization and where we're going. He talks about science, both the practice of science and the institution of science, and how they're not actually on the same page. The institution of science is heavily controlled by being able to produce results or things that investors are putting into them. All this money, they have to show something. So oftentimes they can be closed-minded in certain pieces of information, and that this isn't necessarily new. Copernicus, Nikolai Copernicus, I don't know if I'm getting that name right. Anywho, he was the one who discovered that we are not the center of the universe. The Earth is not the center of the universe, that the Earth spins around. It's under the gravitational influence and dominance, if you will, of the sun. So we're locked in its gravitational pull. It's not locked in our gravitational pull. So we are not the center of the universe. We're not the center of our solar system. We're just another, as Avi tells us, ordinary planet in an ordinary solar system, circling an ordinary star. I mean, hey, maybe there's your answer there. Statistically speaking, how could we be alone? So Avi is definitely someone who has some authority on the subject, and he's credible. He also uses history and looking at examples of what having a closed mind can do and the dangers of it, and why we need to be curious. We need to be more like children. We need to ask questions. We need to be real with ourselves and say, hey, we don't have the answer to everything. And so much of science is experiment. If the world is an experiment, if the state is an experiment, if we're essentially an experiment or in one, then let's be scientists. Let's use our senses. Let's use our ability to observe, and let's try and make some conclusions and test them. That's how we came up with things like gravity. Things fell from the sky. We noticed that there was a theme or the same product, the same outcome, and we were able to come up with laws, right? Laws that are things that can't be proven to be false. So that's why it's the law of gravity, not the theory of gravity. things like the theory of evolution. If we keep producing research and evidence, it could one day become the law of evolution. However, within evolution, there's so much guesswork that goes on. And that will be for a future book when I talk about dinosaurs, another book that I'm reading right now. So you're probably wondering, hey, this is totally different than what you usually do. You're talking about life outside our planet. And the truth is that when it comes to reading books, read what you want to read, enjoy what you read. If you find that what you're going through is a trog, well, then read it before bed. It'll put you to sleep. But it's good to be entertained by what you're reading. And when information can become entertaining, wow, I mean, hey, it doesn't have to be an aesthetic pursuit. There's other bits in this book. So as mentioned, Oumuamua is sort of the backdrop for more information. He talks about the innovations that are currently coming through. Avi is involved in the Starshot initiative, which essentially they're going to be shooting cameras across the known universe, across the universe, through lasers that will be propelled by lasers and by light. And they're just going to keep going. And he's saying perhaps this is part of the technology that Oumuamua was powered by. Again, one of the things that makes us think, okay, Oumuamua is probably not a comet, probably not a meteor, probably not a rock, because we've never seen anything like this. And when it got close to the sun and the gravitational pull of the sun that we're locked in, as this object got close to there, it deviated away from it. So it resisted the gravitational pull and went straight out of our solar system and away from us ever being able to observe it. In this book, he talks about what it could be. So he theorizes, is this living technology? Is this ancient technology? Is it just garbage from a previous civilization? He talks about, again, if this civilization exists, what does that mean? Did this civilization get past its great filter? And the great filter is this time where things die off. The end of the Cretaceous period was the great filter for the dinosaurs when they were hit by a massive meteor the size of a mountain. So he's saying that civilizations have to get past the great filter. And if they can, through collaboration, inquiry, research, curiosity, always being curious, not thinking they know everything, not being the center of the universe, they can survive for another 200,000 years. Because think about it. Our species has been around only 200,000 years. Homo sapiens sapiens, the wise ape, or whatever the translation is. So he also talks about one other thing on here that I really liked was talking about the different conclusions we can make on Oumuamua. And he says here, of course, there's no need to be that patient. It is already technologically feasible for humanity to use powerful lasers that will be far more effective than the sun to push light sails out into interstellar space. This, of course, is the centerpiece proposal of the Breakthrough Starshot Initiative, a laser beam that produced 10 gigawatts of power per square meter, would be 10 million times brighter than sunlight on Earth and be able to send a light sail craft several tenths the speed of light, excuse me. So he's saying here right now that we can observe past light speed, which, if that can be achieved, that will change probably everything that we know. Because if we can cover and observe space that quickly, we're going to find things that are probably, again, going to change fundamentally how we see ourselves as individuals and how we see ourselves as a planet in the universe. So this book is just a great beginner for anybody who wants to get into the subject, for anybody who's ever thought, are we alone in the universe? For anyone who's ever looked at space and you see stars and you want to learn more about what it is that you're looking into. When we look into space, we're looking at millions, billions of years into the past. And the sun being shot down from us has taken light years to reach our eyes, and now we're seeing it. So anytime we look into the night sky, we're looking into the past. And when we look into the past, it's an invitation to get curious. And that's one thing that Avi is hugely about. He's about the amateur scientist and the academic scientist coming together to come up with ideas and curiosities to make more sense of not only ourselves, but ourselves within the universe and the universe itself. So definitely check that book out. I loved it. For more books, be sure to like, subscribe to our videos here. I love reading. I'm sure you do too, but life's busy. So I could tell you about these books. So maybe you don't have to read them, or maybe you're curious about them. I didn't give everything away. There's still lots of amazing bits of information in there for you to collect. Thank you for listening.